Now this is really interesting. This gentleman is going to build this construction. He sent me this through today. He lives near the M1, and the reason that he's doing this pitched roof construction like this, he's obviously got a loft area which is going to be behind this, is that he wants to stop the noise from transferring through from the M1. He's also got a couple of other questions that he's asked. He's asked about the vapor barrier and which one I would suggest use from the inside, and he's also asked about the sarking felt, or the underfelt, which is now called, which goes on the outside, and again which one I would use, because the manufacturers, which have got a lot of detail up there, they don't actually refer to materials and give specifications, and that's really what I'm hopefully going to help him work out. I'm going to go over now to a much better picture of this. It's not exactly the same one that he gave me, but it's close enough, and it's using the same materials and the same build up. So firstly, I want to answer the question regarding the air vapor control layer that goes across on the inside here, and the answer is, well, that should be of a good performance, of course, but we need to look at the construction of the rest of this and see what's going on. Well, theoretically, the Rockwool that is being used here is vapour-open, so it's going to allow vapor movement right the way through, which is really good. So an air vapor control layer of a high quality on the inside is good, but anything that gets through is going to easily get all the way through this construction and get out on the other side. So I'll address what air vapor control layer towards the end here. I'll then now go through how to get rid of it on the top, and then we can come back to that. So if we're going to allow some to go all the way through, and just remember, an air vapor control layer is a control layer, it's not a vapor stop. No matter which one you use and how good it is, it's always going to let some vapor transfer and come all the way through. It's always going to come to the outside. So as that vapor comes out on this side, quite rightly, Rockwool have said that you need to have a vapor open membrane on the outside, which is great. But he's saying, and Rockwool says, that you don't need to vent it at the bottom and at the top. Okay, well, if that's what they want to say, that's fine. I would question, why wouldn't you vent it at the top at the bottom? Now, they're talking about venting at the bottom would be really difficult because of the construction. Now, this construction is quite interesting because it is a warm roof construction. In fact, I would say it's a warm roof construction with a cold roof on top, but I'll go into that in a second. Now, I'm going to break in here because there was two things that I missed that I wanted to talk about. The first thing was where to put the actual underfelt, whether to put it above these vertical battens or between the vertical battens and the battens of the tiles. Now, theoretically, it doesn't really make that much difference. There's a for and against. You could put it down lower here. It's all going to be air open and vapor open. But that said, is that you need to talk to the manufacturers, because the manufacturers might suggest that it's got to be higher, because touching something else might cause a problem with the vapor and the air permeability if you're going to use a vapor open and a air open one. I would always want to put it above anyhow with a slight drape, and the reason that is because if you do get a leak through the tiles, it always runs to the middle, which is the lowest point because it's draped, and it runs all the way down. So that's my preferred place, but again, talk to the manufacturers on that one. Now, the second one, while I was looking at this, I was looking at this junction here, and it says on their instructions, ensure the cavity insulation tightly abuts the MyRock frame slab. So that's what they're going on here. But you know, I've never liked full fill cavity walls. I always think that's a big mistake. If you think about one of the reasons why a cavity wall was first started, it was to separate the outside from the inside, no insulation in between, and a wall was always designed to get wet. A 9-inch wall, which was a solid wall, was designed to get wet, but because of its thickness, it never got wet on the inside. We then did cavity walls, and the idea of the cavity was that if the outside brick got soaking wet, the water could drip down the inside and not come through. Then we started to infill, and we used to put a small amount of insulation but towards the inside of the building, leaving the gap. Now, fully filled, I think, is a mistake, because you can get the transfer all the way across. Now, Rockwool is actually, it's a great product because of it's basically candy floss stone, so it is theoretically waterproof, and it has like an oily texture to it as well, which they will say helps repel water. So that might be the argument of doing it, but nevertheless, I don't like it. I would always prefer to see a partially filled, and what I wouldn't do, and these are my own opinions, is join this directly to this without some kind of barrier going across. Because if you think about it, is that if you've got a problem inside the wall down here and you've got moisture that comes in, there was always going to be some kind of thermal movement through, so there's going to be warmth in this, and warm air will always go upwards. You're asking for the warm air which is inside this, which could have the moisture from any liquid that's got through, and that will rise. So you're going to have warm air with moisture in it, a higher relative humidity, which is going to join your roof. To me, that's the wrong thing to do. So if it was me, I would suggest that a vapour barrier is run right the way across to stop this one from joining that one. Yes, keep the thermal element, because that is a beautiful thermal element which goes all the way around there. But again, there's always this big argument about whether or not a cavity wall which has got a cavity in it, i.e. partially filled, should be vented or not. I think they should be vented. They should be vented at the bottom and vented at the top, because you want this wall to dry all the time. So your thermal element is always going to be this side of the cavity and the internal part. But it's, you know, the powers above doesn't seem to see it that way, but I think that would be a much more robust construction, to have venting at the top, vented at the bottom of the cavity, and close the cavity off to here, and that way you're doing a robust construction. But they're just my points, and anybody out there is welcome to come back to me and tell me what you think. There's a lot of information out there about all sorts of different ways people do cavity walls. Anyhow, let's get back to the video. The fact that you've got to have quite a lot of support here to stop all this from sliding down, because there's a lot of work going on above the structure of this. If you look at this, they're showing the structural timbers here. So above the structural timbers, you've got other insulation on the top, which is going to make it hard to fix this. And while I'm talking about the fixings, just check out what fixings you're going to use for thermal performance going all the way through, and also how to fix them. I've seen that a lot of details where they talk about putting the fixing in at an angle, because if you put them straight in through this, from top to the bottom, through this batten, right way through into there, because there is stress on this that moves down, it can twist the fixings and everything can move down. If you start off by putting it in an angle, and again, talk to the manufacturers about this, at a slight angle, you can reduce that, because you've already got the angle on it and it's got nowhere to go. So that's a point that you should look up with the fixings. They talk about, Rockwool talk about putting a fixing in, which is basically a metal stud right the way through. I would start to look at, can you get a thermal fixing that would do the same, and would it be worth doing to make sure that you haven't got any thermal bridging going through. Now, the fact that the fitting, which is metal, which they're talking about, actually goes through the piece of wood at the top here, through this and into that one, means that it's quite well thermally protected. So I'm not too bothered about that at all. And this is a massive build up, and it's going to be really, really good. So let's go back to this. We're going to have moisture coming out, the most minute amount, because of the way we got an air vapor control layer on the top. When it gets out to the top, it's got to be able to escape. So because this is vapour open, if you use the correct one, it can permeate through this and then be taken out by any movement of air. But the movement of air up here is restricted by the tiles. Now, these are a Redland 49 type of tile that they're showing on this diagram, and as long as it's using something like that, it's not using, say, an artificial slate. An artificial slate is vapour closed. You've got to be careful. You want to use something which is air open, because the air can move around them. Any vapour coming through should be able to get out. But I can't see why you wouldn't use a vapour open, and one of the new vapour open and air open underfelts here. An air open and vapour open one would give you ventilation without having to put a vent at the bottom and a vent at the top. And of course, here you can see there's a eaves protection system in here, which is great. That should be installed. So if they did put the membrane in, I would say I would use an air open and vapour open membrane. I can't see why you wouldn't. That would allow more movement of air up here and the removal of more vapour if any came through. So now we need to go back and have a look at the internal air vapour control layer. Now, I always talk to a particular manufacturer who's been so helpful for me in the past, which is Novia, and they're really great. I would suggest that they contact them and ask them for the specification of what they would use, showing them the build-up. They will give them the correct one to use, and the key point on that is to make sure you install it correctly. A stands for air vapor control. It's got to be airtight. If you don't install it properly and it's got air gaps in it, it doesn't matter how good the quality of the air vapor control layer is, it's always going to let air through. And luckily enough, with this particular construction here, it's very, very forgiving. It's going to be really easy to be able to put this insulation, which is the lower one, excuse me for doing that, which is the lower one, which fits in between the structural timbers, and to push it in tight, which is amazing. So you can get that in there nice and tight, which is going to help stop the movement of air coming all the way through. Then you've got this whole one over the top again, which stops thermal bridging through the timbers, but also makes it even more airtight. So this is going to be extremely airtight, even though that this particular system is vapor open. And I wouldn't say that it allows air movement to go through it, but it doesn't allow drafts to go through it. Nevertheless, you've got to make sure at the back of this that it is airtight, and that's how the vapor barrier goes. So down below I'll put the link to the air vapor control layer, and I'll put a link to a couple of the underfelts that I've used in the past, which are vapor open and air open. And I would suggest that you talk to the manufacturers of both the products and make sure that they're happy with all of this. And also don't forget to look up the fixings that go through. But hopefully that helps. Anybody else need any more information, please get in contact with me. Speak soon. Bye bye.